Start ya, dah 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay, sure. Assalamualaikum and good day to everyone. Welcome to Prekebanda Urban Talk and thank you for making time to join us this morning. We are honored to be on the same platform with our guest panelists who will be discussing art in the city. Before we proceed, on behalf of Prekebanda, I would like to share some updates on our program. Currently, we are organizing National Urban Design Awards 2021 or NUDA. The objective of the award is to recognize urban design projects of the highest qualities and to encourage cities, towns, and communities across the country to strive for best practice in all their projects. The National Urban Design Awards acknowledge the importance and impact of inter and multidisciplinary teams in creating livability of Malaysian cities and sustainability of the communities. The award is a mean for Prekebanda to give a stamping as a sign of our endorsement to projects that help to give Malaysian cities their identity as part of a bigger agenda to ensure the sustainability of our cities in the future. We also hope to identify projects and to acknowledge those who have made an effort to produce good urban design works that reflect the uniqueness of our city. By participating in NUDA and upon winning its award, the designer, consultant, developers and client will acquire a certain prestigious position amongst their competitors as someone who have achieved excellence or contributed to the achievement of excellence in urban design in this country. We are still accepting nomination until the 4th of December this year. For further details, please visit our website at www.perekebanda.org.my. Okay, back to the webinar. For today's webinar, we will be joined by Pak Jo Sidek, Chairman of Penang Arts Council, Mr. Fadzlan Rizal Johani, Design Director at Dipapan 9 Studio, and Adjunct Professor Dr. Shuhana Shamsuddin, who is also Prekebanda President. Our moderator for today's session is none other than Architect Mustapha Kamal. And now without much delay, I pass the screen to Architect Mus to start off the webinar. Architect Mus, the screen is yours now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Masita. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you all are. Thank you very much for spending your time at this webinar. It's a very special webinar in my opinion because we are talking about how art in the city can actually play a role in urban design and how it can actually enliven people's life. So as Dr. Masita has actually highlighted, we are being, how should I say, done today by very esteemed speakers here. First of all is Pak Jo Sidek. So I normally call him Joe. So I think Joe, most people best known of him is as director of Georgetown Festival. Okay, he established himself as one of Malaysia's strong advocates of art, and he has been talking about festival as a way to actually promote cities, not just in Kuala Lumpur, not just in some parts of Malaysia, but throughout. And I think he has a lot to do, and being his industrialist and also the tak boleh duduk diam, so basically cannot sit still. So he's on the move, and I think with all his movement, especially in the Georgetown Festival in 2010, the festival grown to incrementally since. So later you can see his slide, and now he's actually going to promote in November a very important festival pula in KL, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and I think it's about celebrating Southeast Asia, celebrating about Asia, and I think that's very, very crucial. Next speaker is an architectural designer, Fadzlan Rizan Johani, and I know him because he's also part of the people who done murals and also did some graphics for Pertubuhan Architect Malaysia, and I think he's just passionate doing art in school, and he actually worked in United Kingdom, and before he come back, he actually started to do a lot of art. And one of the things that she started is actually to produce more artwork and accepted to be member of Bury Art Society. So this is quite interesting. And the Since 2014, he won the Laman Seni 7 mural competition. So that became a big, apa I call it, the big wall mural. Ni kalau waktu kecil-kecil they call it graffiti, but this is actually graffiti in the highest standard lah. So we'll see from his angle of how art in the city from the artist point of view. Just now from the Joe is actually on the wholesomeness of culture. Next, the last speaker will be Dr. Shuhana, who is actually our president of Mereka Bandar, and she holds a lot of accolades. And I think if I were to list all the accolades, it will take the whole session. So let her do justice when she presents. So without further ado, each of the speakers will have about 10 minutes or so to present their case and also to allude to us how their interest about art in the city comes about, the importance of it. And especially now with the pandemic, people are actually now starting to look for some form of repose for people to stay calm, to stay sane, and to stay well, and to be healthy, especially living in the city. So without further ado, I will start the session with Joe. Later we start with Fadzlan, and lastly we'll go to Prof. Dr. Shuhana. And after they have presented, I will have a special panelist session between the three of them before I open the floor to the public to ask questions either on Facebook, YouTube, or even on the Zoom, whichever has been highlighted by Dr. Masita. So, Joe, the floor is yours for 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum. Selamat pagi. Terima kasih Arkitek Mus. Thank you for inviting me. Besar hati saya dapat di jemputan ini bercakap, kongsi to share with everyone my experience about how I started in Penang. Can I have the first slide, please? My name is Joe. I actually studied town planning in Manchester. So in the first slide, yeah. In 2010, I was second slide, please. 2010, I was invited by the Chief Minister of Penang to work on something for Georgetown, because Georgetown, 2008, we got inscribed with UNESCO listing. And then 2010, the state, it was a new opposition government, thinking like, okay, how do we celebrate this? And how do we make use of it? Nobody knew what to do, neither did I. Even when I asked for a contract, they said, you don't trust me, I'm the Chief Minister. So I studied, I like to do homework. I studied what art and culture has done to major cities like Melbourne, Adelaide, Sydney, Singapore, Taiwan. And I thought, okay, why do we do this? For whom would this festival be? And I studied effect and impact and the word inclusivity. And I wanted to know, where did I want to take this festival? So I planned that in 5 years, I wanted it to be a regional name, and inshallah, it would be a global name. And more than that, who are you planning this festival for? It has to be for the people of Penang to enjoy, to learn. And for me, it's a journey. I like to study. So bringing all these international shows is for us to understand, oh, so this is how you get to bring your shows abroad and perform in Lincoln Center or Sadler's Wells or Melbourne Festival. So this is a poster of the 9 years that I had a really incredible journey through the goodwill of the state of Penang and the Chief Minister, who gave me freedom. I think it's very important to think of the software of a city. You can plan the best cities in the world, like Brasilia, which somehow or other, there was no soul. It's important to marry soft and hardware together as you do urban planning or town planning. It's important to have the software and people. It should be people-centric, because when you do plan cities, you need to think of the people. You can't tell people how to live their life and how to enjoy their lives. You can share with them. So for me, the 9 years of doing Georgetown Festival was sharing what I wanted to learn about the arts, from both traditional art forms to the most contemporary of performances that were taking the world by storm. I'd like to share a short video of how we use Georgetown as canvas to show culture, because Penang tak ada huge performing halls like Melbourne or Singapore or Sydney or Taiwan. We don't have swanky galleries like KL pun. We don't have Istana Budaya and all that. So what I had was a civic hall and a lot of streets, beautiful streets that told very strong stories. So we brought the arts to the people and on the street. Please play the video, please. Terima kasih. Next slide, the video. The video shares a little bit of how we brought the festival onto the street and for the public to enjoy without feeling that you need to be intelligent, clever to enjoy the arts. Yeah, that's the video. Can you play the video? Sound? See, so maybe I should try to share. Maybe you allow me to share screen. Okay. Boleh dengar kan? Is it okay? Tak ada sound.
Because of kita tak nak ada gangguan. Okay, the video dah habis. Okay, Pak Jo can continue?
Yeah?
Alright, you can continue, yes. Okay, so I share your slide, yeah? The fourth slide. Alright.
Okay, I can... I'm lost here. So, okay. Has the video ended?
Yes, the video
okay.
ended. Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you. So, I did 9 years of Georgetown Festival, where I felt important to bring the show to the people of Penang. And in that, we got really internationally recognized. But a lot of festivals or content, when states or authorities want you to do it, they talk about money. So basically, I used the deduction that culture, arts, and tradition could be a tourism attraction. So after the success of Georgetown Festival, I was invited by the Chief Minister of Sarawak to look at how we layered Sarawak Rainforest Festival. And the narrative of Sarawak, which is very important when you talk about First Nation, around the world, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Sabah, Sarawak, Taiwan have a history of First Nations, but nowhere could you celebrate it and not marginalize. So I felt the potential of Sabah and Sarawak would be their ownership of the history of the indigenous races of Malaysia. So that was 3 years, and inshallah I get to work back in Sarawak, in Kuching. Next slide, please. Okay, this is what I'm really excited about. Sometime this year, I was invited by Chandana, who had a program called Art in the City in 2018 and 2019, where they had huge murals and they had also art installation. I realized that what I wanted to do was to bring, the subject would be Kuala Lumpur as a city. That's my first focus. Second is, what is art and culture? how do you bring art and culture into the spaces that actually marries the space with a story? So inshallah, in 25th and 28th of November, we'll be having a press conference with Chandana and the ministry on the 30th, where we launch the list of programs. And we're partnering DBKL and several other parties that we will announce. Inshallah, we'll partner Pereka Bandar also. The idea is to celebrate Kuala Lumpur, to take ownership, to make people in KL understand history, understand buildings, enjoy the history, enjoy the buildings, and also give the spirit of place to Kuala Lumpur. So I think I've done my 10 minutes. So watch out for this. On the 30th of September, we'll be making the public announcement. Terima kasih. And I'm sorry about the video. Terima kasih. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Jo. Actually, the video went fine. It's just for the smoothness of the sound and also our flow. So in YouTube and Facebook, they went well. So alhamdulillah. So thank you very much, Joe, on that. How should I say, explaining to us about Georgetown Festival, about your new projects, and also how you are bringing together everything under the sun for arts. And the arts is a lot. So that's certainly a good start for this morning. I'm sure there will be lots of queries and also questions about how it all entails after this. So I think without further ado, we go to our second speaker. We go to Fadzlan Rizan. So Fadzlan, the floor is yours for the next 10 minutes. All the best.
Assalamualaikum. Let me share the screen. Okay. So I'm Fadzlan from the Papan 9 Studio ataupun DP9 Studio lah. And then basically I just go through my background about us. I'm an architect since 2003, so it's around 18 years of experience. Until today, I'm still, even though I'm doing mural works, but I'm still practicing as an architect. I'm also teaching as a lecturer in UITM, so almost 8 years part-time. And then recently, I just become not recently, from 7 years ago, since 2014, so I become a muralist. So based on these 3 ingredients, I think it somehow just explain it because it gives my kind of identity different from the rest of other artists. So everyone artist is have their unique style or unique approach. So my approach is somehow a bit different from the rest. So my approach is as looking as an architect, trying to give to give spirit to the building. So it's rather than I paint mural because I love for the architecture rather than the other way around. I love for art, so I love for architecture that I paint mural. So then this is the first time I do a mural competition 2014 in what we call MBSA organizing a competition Laman Seni Tujuh. So this is the first time I competing, but this is the first time that I go freelance work, so I don't have any work. So this is like a very lonely stage in my life that I feel like, okay, I don't have, and I don't really have that, that talent, don't have any expectation. So this is like a very lonely journey where that even to have paint, I ask for people to, my friends, to give donation to, because when you enter competition, you don't be given any monetary yet. So you have like a gamble. So I can't gamble that. So I ask friends for help for paint, to pay for paint. So along the way, I discovered that doing this mural is also, engaging activity with family members, my boys especially. Ask them to paint, to draw, to enjoy the spaces, to understand the struggle. So this is without we expecting to win, but alhamdulillah we win as the winner for the rest of the competition. So from there I make more friends of artists. more well established and more professional artists, that I feel like I've just by luck winning, but because we are doing it as a family, we try to have as much spaces as possible. So, a lot of learning curve along the way. So, but the most important part when that finish, because it's the mural is like it's become like your firstborn child. So after the competition, I'll keep on coming to the places to see people how they use it, the space. Sometimes they use it wrongly, so I tell them. So I documented what are they experience on the spaces, so this become those are the moments that make me feel more happier. I give life to that place. My students come in, so I have the opportunity to tell them, beyond arts, architecture and arts during their visit. So that's the eye opening for them to see firsthand how we try to merge between arts and architecture. How to enjoy the spaces, even though it's actually a dirty place, and then you can turn it into something that's fun. Political figures, and also it become a place that artists making a video shoot. So I didn't expect this. I'm being very lucky. So I'm very grateful for MBSA for organizing it and making it a stepping stone for further works. So it's just from this simple sketch. I didn't expect to be selected, but somehow it managed to be realized along the way that I improvised the work, and somehow it grows into something that extraordinary. Later then I go to another mural works. After that, we go to a tree of knowledge. We start with a tree of life. Then we go a tree of knowledge, a series of trees. This is a library, so it's surrounded. We take it all the books inside a tree trunk. So the library is gone into landscape. The horizon of landscape is continuing. So you can't see the building as if you enter the trees. Then only you can enter the library. Every knowledge in this big trunk. And then I got commission from UM to a small student lounge. So the rumah kecil. So this is like this for fakulti Bahasa Melayu, fakulti Malay. So fakulti pengajar Melayu. So dia lebih kepada for Malay houses or Malay environment. So I create that lounge, extend it into a small house, which reminds me of my top one house in Tanah Liat. A very small hut, and then there is this small kitchen, very tiny kitchen. So this is where I try to remind people about their because people go to university, they Menara Gading, and so this like remind them their roots, where they come from, what are their responsibility to those roots. So by this one I did myself, because I can't expect my boys to do detailing. So this is the part of that I'm doing 3D and detailing, sharpen back my skills during those years. And then I got commissioned to do mural in PD and abandoned a resort. You change it into a Caribbean feel. So the house, the flat, turned into a different segment of Caribbean houses and small huts. This one is a collaboration. I did this collaboration with my students. So the one that I told before, engaging with my students when I win the competition, now I bring the students together to experience the process. And then this CSR work for DBKL, Pohon Jasa. So continuing the tree concept. So this one is in PPR, Pantai Dalam. So this one you try to promote what are the roots of good things, good people, what good deeds that somehow accumulate to create this big tree. So you can have people who do clean up things, helping people. So all these are like a propaganda wall to give people, kesedaran civic or something like that. It's a message. Do good deeds. And then this Tree of Hope, the biggest mural in Malaysia. These are the moments that spark controversy, spark viral, that people started to look it differently when it's like you were wrapped around the building with the mural. So these are the concept of Tree of Hope, because the place Jalan Kelang Lama, used to be a palm plantation. So we bring back those memories in palm plantations with the roots of that place. So that's basically the idea. So this is another for PAM. We do a Tree of Beyonds for the Kuala Lumpur Festival, Kuala Lumpur Architectural Festival. So this is basically just a futuristic tree, but setting in a very small sekolah jenis kebangsaan Tamil, Ladang Tuan Mi. So it's very small school, but this, to show that they can go beyond the small school. The horizon is the future is endless. So the future is not being marked by their own small compound. So they enjoy it, but because this is part of the bottom part, it's being done by them. I'm doing the top part of the mural. So based on those experience, basically, these are things that create our values. I think I think more than when I work. I think I feel when the more that I think, the more that I understand the values that we do. Actually, as an artist, our value is to give, rather than for others to take, but for us to give. So as an artist, to give more. So what we give love. So what we give love, we give this, so that the people felt the heart, and keep them as memories. So this, we try to give as much rooms for them to create memories from the process of doing mural arts. So we give time. So this is something is a bit tricky, because some client wanted it to be faster. Some artists want to show them they are do it very fast, quicker, but we want to give time. We want to take time, give time, so that people have so it become part of the history. Because if you do it like only one day, so you can't compare. If you do a 9-month mural, the history is different. So this time, by giving time, even you will lose on a monetary basis, but then you will give that's the valuable time that you give, that creates the history. So then the next step, we give joy. So we give joy by give chances to participants to enjoy, to do the things. Some of people who are visitors, we stop our work and then just give them to touch the brush and just have a stroke on it. So we give a moment for them to write on the boom leaf, or go draw on the certain part of the wall. So we give them a chance not just to look, but to feel the joy of creating the space, creating the mural. And then by having that, we will give meaning. So we have the time to, because we have give time, so we have the time to explain the meaning of the mural. So every time people come, we explain. And then these people do explain, we explain other people. So those meaning will somehow embedded into the people heart, and then create that love to that place. So all this giving will give the soul back to that space. And then at the end of the day, I understand that this is not about you. This is not me as an artist to go there and then to showcase my talent. to do there to show that I'm the best, I'm the excellent. No, this is not about me, but this is about them. For that, this is about the people that we touch when we do a process of mural. We are people that we eat together, the shop that we visit, the places that we discover. So this is more about them. So because at the end of the day, I just come for a certain period of time, then I left, and they are the one who will remain there, and the work actually is belong to them. So this is all about them. It's not about me or about us. So that somehow based on that value, we generate our methods of how we approach a mural. Our first method is basically understanding. We understand the site, we understand the people, we understand the culture and the heritage. So, but I give an example, Pekan Buah, we try to understand the site, but during the PKP, we can't visit for, to do the preliminary. So go to Google Street. I see the places, I see the colors, the merbuk, the colors of Kedah, Al-Star. And then this is out of brief from the client. But because I'm as a background architect, we see beyond the wall itself. So I see it as a master plan. And even though they just asked for 2 walls for mural, but I already look beyond that spaces. How it is so it's not like it's not become a canvas. It's a fabric. The artwork should be a fabric to this place. So by then, I try to understand people. So, but to understand people, you need to be there. So I can only understand more about people once the process of doing work. So we can do a preliminary understanding of people, what are people doing works and everything. But along the way, we going to understand more about people. And then the artwork shop, we will somehow evolve with the people. To understand the culture and heritage. So we understand that Pekan Buah, they ada buah-buah, sell fruits, and the heritage of how they started the place, and then the heritage of the building, the architecture of it. So because I understand the culture, the building and everything, then the second stage is to have a strategy. Why, after we understand that, we have a strategy how to have a concept, narrative, framework, and value. Then I create a concept for Pekan Buah. So basically, create a banner, create an identity. So Pekan Buah, for example, the building itself is not a part of scope of mural, but I give a client a free advice as an architect how to handle the building so that it wraps around. Rather, a canvas is wrapped around the artworks and the buildings together. They sync together in harmony. So this is the way that I think, taking the fruit from the fruits and then the color of the fruits, and then somehow translate it into a building. So the colors transform to the color of fruits, basically. And then they change into once the finalized works. And so then the concept of bukit, the artwork itself. So I have a story of Bukit Buah. So a crate, and then rather than having a small fruits, then we enlarge it. It become the subject matter. Then we are the human scales are climbing it. So we are reaching to the top of the fruits, and then put parametrically put a flag of Kedah into the top of the hills. So we do a superimpose. So another one is rumah buah, a fruits house. So just now we climb on the fruits, and now we are inside the fruits. So I want to let because our eyes, our senses is somehow need to be adjusted once we see something bigger. So usually I appreciate, we don't really appreciate, we take for granted fruits. So when we see fruits, okay, because it's small scale, now we big and we make it bigger that you can live in it. So once you want to live in it, it's like a house. You want it to be beautiful, or you start to understand the shape of the house. So you understand the shape or the texture of the fruits. So that's the intention of having a rumah buah, because most of the workers there also live in that place, live in pekan buah. So it's like a direct translation, living in the fruits, living in the fruit town. So you have fruit town. We do a superimpose work. So we try to, as much possible, to create this narrative. So the narrative is because my wife orang Kedah, so we have family members in Alustar and also in Changlun. So this is like coming home. So we never been to Alustar in this long period. We usually go 1 to 3 days. But because of the mural, this gives us a chance to know better. Even she doesn't know, to know better of his own, born place. Is born that she's born, right? So that's because of that narrative. It creates people say, tak sabar, I want to wait. What's in it? So it's like a story. It's the beginning of an episode story. So the framework is really about time, how you want to manage things. But then in Pekan Buah, it doesn't have a good example how we're going to do this framework. So I share with you what we did for the Klang Lama, because it's very long, so very tricky. So the mural surface, we understand the mural surface, the size, the length, and then the process, the staging process, the undercoat, and drawing the outline, your coloring, how many weeks. This is just preliminary, try to understand the spaces that we given, how long we complete it. Obviously, we don't manage to get it on time, but then because the change of the hour. So, but then again, it shows that the process of trying to get this framework done. So the next is once the most interesting part is when we create the artwork. We create the artwork, and actually we create conversation. And then later on, the more boring part is documentation. And back to interesting part, create the branding. So once we create artwork, basically I try to post about my process or my team process, me and my wife process of doing the mural. Basically is more individualistic, but then our thought, so that people understand that we are doing it, we engaging it with people. The people might want to know us. So sometimes we sing, we have songs. Sometimes we do the struggle, we share the struggle so that people understand this, so that people don't take it for granted what we do, what other people do. And then we also, the artwork need to be improvised along the way. Sometimes we understand, we start to discover one of the artworks doesn't have buah star. Somehow we need to, once we are there, we understand more, we need to put buah star in the bundle of the fruits. Then some of the texture of the pineapple is not correct. Even though there is a variation of pineapple, the one that we choose is not from that place, because we do it off ground. So now once we understand it, because this uncle tell us, they come and talk behind our back, but we know, and then they get they make jokes with his friends, and they say, this is, they tanya, ask you, what is this fruit? They kata, pineapple, nanas. It's not nanas. It's a vegetable, sayur, because it nampak more leaf. It's just look like, just look like a leaf. So I try not to be offended by this. I think this is part of experience, to know better the subject matter. So by then I changed, the sebenarnya ada duri, ada thorn between thorns. So even though the one that we have is different species, but then the one that they familiar is different. So we try to change that detailing just for them. Then only after that the uncle came, ini baru pineapple. So the joy is to see him respond to work. And we give him like a clue, is it true or not? They even though it sounds like making fun of it, but then we take it as something fun to be with, laughing together.
Fadzlan, 2 minutes, Fadzlan.
For 2 minutes, okay. So this is another changes we do. Instead of painting, we do a real flag, and then instead of dulu tak ada heart, tulisan heart, then we put another calligraphy, and then the logo itself. So all this improvisation during on the site. And then we create conversation. The conversation is actually the most interesting part. We create conversation, then we document it. Some are very, very sad, some are very happy. The engaging with people's coming, conversation with workers, conversation with neighborhood. This person gave me kutubah, Jumat. During that Jumat, I don't go pray, but then he come and tell me about good things, bad things. This person actually complain about paint, jatuh atas kereta dia. And then I give money to clean it up. And then we become a good friend. He told me a lot of things. So this person coming, we document conversation with friends, conversation with kids. So kids coming in, we give them chances to participate, to go on the boom lift. The most memorable time, because during that time is 29th, fall on my birthday. So my father from Penang came in, and we somehow celebrate birthday on site. I've never been being in public doing celebration like this. So this is the first time or very long time. Childhood maybe lah, bila dah besar, it's very long time. Then this happiness was shared with the rest of the people on the place. I give time to be with them. I give to be with people. Stop work. Basically stop work. My friend came and everything. So then we have a conversation with lorry driver, and then conversation even with the machineries. For me, I give name to this boom lift, Rose. Rose means ruang orang seni enjoy. So people thought it's Rose like awet mana-mana kan. So that I give meaning to machineries. So people should appreciate machineries as well. So documentation part, so document everything into a collage. And I document before and after, and also document myself before and after the process. So those are things I think, and extra work that muralists don't do. So because of this, we are creating branding for it. Pekan Buah is a Gegasi Kedah. So it's like creating a new, macam ingat Pekan Rabu. So that Pekan Buah. So we highlight the place. We give an identity for it. We create merchandise, gift coverage to people. So basically there, and then the last is future, which is sometimes after the mural process, which not many clients want to be engaged with, but then it's actually very important because it creates future evolution and future interaction and future collaboration towards the artwork, because it's a fabric, so it should be evolved. For example, evolution. One of the visitors come and snap pictures, give to show me this first image from his handphone. But I said, oh, but I put an extra work saying that it should be increased. It should be finished on top, tambah lagi atas. So this is a response to people who comment or posting Facebook and then give them a vision of the future. So interaction in the future, tempat tu ada tempat jamming. So actually the jamming itself should be go out instead of inside. Brand them as pekan buah. Because there's a lot of talents, hidden talent inside there should be bring out to the open. So future collaboration. So that's I try to make it as fast as possible. That's all then. Thank you.
Thank you, Fadzlan. This one, the journey from nothing to something, and you create friends. I think that's what architecture is all about, right? And how urban design create the beauty to give people some pleasantness. I know where you have this firmness, beauty, and delight. So I think this is where the architecture and urban design, and also the wall painting, rather than people just paint the wall, is actually now you're making it an art of the wall. So it's good, and you make it like a vocation, and I think that's the beauty part of it. And coming down further from the arts and culture to the piece of art on the building, I think we now go to Prof. Dr. Shuhana to actually give her an opportunity to share with us on the journey of how urban design and art in the city will help further to create some form of character. And I think that is another one where in urban design, not just character, but become a fabric. And that fabric is the one that we wear, and the fabric that we soon refer to. So, Prof. Dr. Sana, the floor is yours for 10 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum, everyone. Good morning. Just now we've been listening to two different perspectives with regards to arts in the city. Mr. Joe Sidek just now actually highlighted the broader aspect of the arts, which also includes the customs, traditions, will and life, history of a place, how those form arts can be actually interpreted and also to be enjoyed and showcased to visitors about the life of the people in the city. And then Mr. Fadzlan has interestingly bring us to the more specific aspect of the arts industry, which is mural painting. And this is actually one form of the art which is now quite trendy, as we see in many cities in the world has go into mural painting of the city in order to enliven the townscape. So you can see here, when we talk about the role of arts in the city, there are two different aspects which has been actually described by the two panelists just now. One is the arts that is actually affecting the townscape and urban form, which is the example, mural being painting being the example. And then how the arts is actually transforming the character of the public realm and giving the sense of vitality to the city, giving the sense of life through having this kind of festivals like the Georgetown festivals and what Mr. Joe just now planning to do in KL is a way of giving life to the city by involving local people through the arts. Okay, so I would like to just share, why arts is important in the city, because especially in Malaysia, if we look our city, the way we built the cities in Malaysia, we practically have lost the art of building cities. Yeah. If you look at most of our cities are actually built for utilitarian purposes, more on the practical and functional aspects. But we sort of uh, lose on the way on the aesthetics part of city building, and this aesthetics part is not very tangible. It's not, and normally it's not given enough focus or emphasis because by nature being non-tangible, it also doesn't comes top in the priority as compared to other aspects of the city building like traffic. I think in Malaysia we focus too much on traffic and how to facilitate movement in the city, and we focus too much on increasing commercial activities in the in the city by building more and more shopping malls, and now we find out that the shopping malls are redundant and useless. And probably post pandemic we have to think what how best we can use this the abundance of the shopping malls that we see, invading our cities. But if you look at the developed countries, the cities in the developed countries, they are focusing not just on making cities functional. They're also focusing on how to give visual delight to the city, so that people come to the city not just for functional purposes, not just to come to shop, to work, and do their businesses, but also to go to the city to enjoy the city. And this part of enjoyment is missing at the moment, especially here in Malaysia. And we can see that even our buildings are practically utilitarian, very just functional. So much so that we need to have people like Mr. Fadzlan, to do some mural painting in order to create some kinds of delight, so that the buildings can liven up the place. But my only caution is that it is a no-no for us to do murals on historical buildings, or heritage places, because that's why I think it's very encouraging to have an architect turning to become a mural painter, because then the mural painting is not just a form of art, but it's also a form of how we can actually embrace art in the architecture of the building, and also to contribute to the sense of place and identity. So okay, let's go into these aspects of the townscape. Now, why I think that, when I mentioned just now townscape and then the public realm and vitality of the city, townscape is actually the most important aspects of the city, because it influences the appearance and giving character to the place. And our townscape is actually full of symbolism. It actually reflects the value system of the society. How we build the cities actually reflects who we are. What values do we hold more? And if you look in historically, the way we built city in the past, we are full of traditions and the arts in building in the architecture of the building. I think if you look at the old houses in the past and the modern shop houses, you can see the stark difference between how much the arts has been lost in the way you design the facade of the old shop houses. The ornamentations are gone. Now we just have very bland surfaces where we just put the billboards and the advertisement boards, to be very 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 much becoming very commercially oriented in the way we design the facade. So when we talk about townscape, is objects is the possible in the townscape. We have why arts is very important, because the arts is actually fulfilling two things in the townscape. First, it is the possible elements of sensations. When you have arts in the city, when you actually utilize arts, you can. When I'm talking about arts, I'm talking in a very general manner here. It can be the arts in the form of paintings, mural, or it can also be the practical, the cultural aspect of the arts. Because they provide the elements of sensations into the city. They also becomes an object of stimulants. So um, being a former academician, Mr. Josidi, I'll be very theoretical here. I just want to let the audience understand why arts is so important in the way we design cities, so that what has been done by Mr. Fadzlan and what you are trying to promote, actually fit in with the importance in as far as urban design is concerned. Now, so but going back just now when I said about arts is actually is elements of sensations and also stimulants in the cities. Why they are very important? Because psychologically, when we talk about the cities, is not just a place where to serve the function for our daily needs, but the city is also a place where we becomes a place where we experience our life. So it is responsible of urban in urban design. We wanted to have cities that is not only serve the purpose, but also to have identity, and also to secure the sense of place, and to support the genius loci or spirit of the place, so that people will have a sense of belonging to the city. Not just, you just live in the city but you do not have any emotional bonding to the city, but you will come to grow and love the city if the city provide a sense of fulfill your emotional needs, to be in a place, in a beautiful place. Even though beauty is very subjective, but everybody wants to live in a beautiful place. So, how they see beauty is a different matter. But what we're talking here is that we should not just be contented to have cities that is very just functional and just practical, but we want cities to provide a sense of the visual, giving us visual delights, as well as providing sensations to through several aspects, which I will go after this. So there are, when you talk about the townscapes, we are not talking just about the building components that makes up the townscape, but we also look into the art of relationship between these elements that makes up the city. So unfortunately in Malaysia we lose that art. Our city is just built to just suit the purpose. I mean, it's just a matter of zoning and putting in the building. But if you look at the way cities have been built, if you look in historically, when the Greek built their cities, there was some kind of arts, being in the way they compose the city. And then this concept of the agora as a place that becomes the symbol of public life, and during the Greek civilization, becomes a place that gives the sense of place to Greeks. And then we look into the Renaissance period, where this is where art is being really being celebrated in the way we build cities and the architecture during the Renaissance period. It's not just very utilitarian purpose, it's very full of ornamentations and symbolism. But slowly, after the Industrial Revolution, cities become very practical, very mundane, and so on. We tend to lose the arts as we go forward. But now I see there is some kind of resurgence in the needs to make cities more artistic, in a way, like focusing on giving the visual delights to the people. And it slowly be changing the routine ambience. I mean, routine, it's so predictable, so monotonous, but it gives sense of life to places. I think one very good example, sorry I haven't got slides to show here. If you go to Barcelona, one of the place where you would actually see how the arts, is giving sense of life, is the La Ramblas. This is a street, a pedestrian street, but you can see all sorts of arts performance. You still have people dressing like Christopher Columbus, doing sort of magic tricks, and we have paintings, people painting and so forth. So this is the place that really draws people to go to that, and it shows, how you can use arts, to create interesting places in the city. And this is something that I think, my personal opinion, I think we really need the arts in the city, because our cities are full of very monotonous and mundane kind of architecture, this utilitarian architecture. So these are the places that warrants, or really need some kind of arts to be put inside to liven up the place. But in historical places where the architecture is already very ornate, the architecture itself is rich in the symbolism and so forth. I mean, these are the places that we have to be very cautious about how we can use the arts. Do not go overboard, by painting murals on heritage buildings, because it will actually reduce the authenticity of the or reduce the heritage value of this city. What these places needs are not just arts to liven up, but they just need maintenance. They just need upkeeping. Paint work that is already have seen the lights of the days. And probably some landscaping, but not to overshadow the original character. But where places where it's so like some examples that shown by Mr. Fadzlan, where the architecture is nothing to shout about, and when the place is really run down and really needs some kind of life, this is where I think we should capitalize on the role of arts to liven up the place, and also to give some kind of strengthen the spirit of the place. I think people psychologically, arts, fulfill the psychological needs of the people in the city. At the moment, we do not focus on that. We only focus on the physiological, needs of the city. The needs to have shops, you need to have restaurants, you need to have a place to walk and so forth. Even the need to have a place to walk is also not being fulfilled effectively. But I see another potential of the arts to be utilized is in our streets, because our streets have lost the life, the sense of vitality is lost. I mean, people are more drawn to go into shopping complexes. Before the pandemic, people prefer to go indoors into the shopping complexes, because there's more interesting things to be done inside the shopping malls with the air conditioning and so forth, as compared to the streets, which is so hot, which got nothing to do, there's no sense of life. But I remember in the olden days, whereby our streets are full of these cultural arts. Like I remember in Kuantan, because I did my PhD in Kuantan, where I do my PhD is about the identity of place. So I choose to study Kuantan as a typical town in Malaysia. And one interesting place to me there is near the Padang, where there is a corner near now they call it was called Medan Kerang. There's a cockle in a sculpture at the place, and then there are plenty of very matured trees, and underneath the trees you have all sorts of people, magicians, yang tengok nasib, and then people sell all sorts of activities which display the life of the people. This is also a form of arts, like lifestyle, which is really. And then the kerang sculpture is I don't know how they associate kerang, kerang cockle with Kuantan. But one thing that we are not really good now is how to utilize sculptures in the city, because if you look, some of the arts can be done not just to give visual delight, but they can also have serve a purpose. Because I remember when I was doing a research in about the waterfront I went to US. In many of these cities in US, they normally use sculptures for practical purpose. Like instead of just a bench, the bench is in the form of a sculpture. So you can sit on the sculpture, and that sculpture is a form of arts that can be utilized. So we have to really go for this kind of arts, where not just for to serve the visual, it's not just aesthetically pleasing, but it's also serving a function. And in one of the cities that I visited, Provence, in the eastern part of America, along the riverfront, there is an art school. It's a college of arts or something. And they utilize the riverfront promenade to display their students' activities. So the discussion, the students' work on the arts, were happening along the city, and then the whole place will liven up. by it's like, although it is a college, it's school that is teaching arts, but they become part of the activities of the place. And it's kind of it's sort of like taking control of the whole. And so you as you walk along the river walk, you can actually see students paintings, and you can see sculptures, students doing sculptures along so I think what I'm trying to say here, it is about time that I'm glad people like Mr. Josie Day is really really on the ground, trying to promote this, because our city has lost the zest, it lost the life, it's like nak mati, hidup mati segan apa, hidup segan mati tak mau, we really need a form of life inside the city. And what better is to use the arts, to liven the spirits of the people and so forth. Have I got time, or most have got time?
Ada lagi 2 minit.
Okay. So going back just now, when before we started, I mentioned to Mr. Josie did about Jejak Warisan KL. I think in 2016 I was commissioned to do the master plan for the KL heritage trails, to tell the story of KL through the heritage trails. And I think this heritage, if it is being really implemented, the heritage trails can be a place where we can actually display these arts, and as well as telling the history of the place. So interpretative center, and the way you design remember, arts it's not just about visual, it can also through sound, auditory, or tactile, or olfactory smell. Because I mean, like using the paving patterns and so forth, is that it affects the kinesthetics, as well as becomes it's also a form of arts where you can experience it on foot. And also a sound, like water, using water, the sound of water splashing. So having sculptures. And because I remember in Boston, they what they did is that there's along the one of the streets near the Boston marketplace, they do a form of sculptures which shows what it was like to be in the gas chambers during the Nazi occupation. I don't know. I think that place was full of the Jews, so that's why. So when you as you walk around the place, you can feel the water, or like they use water which gushes out, and then it comes out like a fume, and then with the sound of water. So it's a very interesting form of arts that is actually telling a story, and at the same time giving a different kind of experience for people who walk to the place. So I think there's a lots of potential for us to actually include arts in the way we design our cities. Also, in our case, how we can improve the quality of our townscape, and also our public realm, our streets and open spaces. There are lots. I think there's a lots of spaces in the cities that is actually needing attention, to have life created to it through the arts. Okay, I'll stop at that.
Thank you very much, Prof, for the enlightenment and to culminate both essence of the arts and cultures, and also the mural. And this is very enlightening also, because a lot of cities are generally more of utilitarian, correct? And I think we now have got to appreciate, and we have to ensure that the places and the cities are actually being celebrated. And I think this celebration has been lost. And I just would like to just make some comments, like, if you go to Berlin, Berlin really do the mural in a very extensive way, and they got streets, or most of their, Berlin being the center of the World War II, so most of their industrial buildings have actually been taken over by mural, and all these art people enjoy Berlin because they have this freedom to show and to express their how should I say, expression. And this is very, very crucial. And I think one statement that I would like to make here, that public art adds enormous value to the culture, aesthetic, and also economic vitality of a community. And I think this is what all the three speakers have actually tried to do. And it is not also just a well accepted principle that of an urban design that public art contributes to a community's identity. And I think that identity has got to be really, really shown. And how Joe is going to create in KL later, Penang, he has done it for 9 years, and then with Fadzlan, how certain purpose of a space being alluded to, like pekan buah, then you got the hutan, bandar, all those sort of things. So the fosters community pride. So we also need to have that pride. Once the community have got a pride, they feel belong. And I think at a sense of belonging, also we create an enhancement of quality of life. There will be a talking point in the community. There will be a talking point between each other. And I think that creates foster better relations, human relations. And I think with this pandemic, I think this will create a better living condition, so that we will be reduced of stress. And I think this will also create not just for the residents there, but also for the visitors. And I also would like to congratulate to Prof to actually highlight again that the mural is not an answer for a building which is of heritage value. It has to be done differently. And we cannot just simply, I call it in English or in Malay, cannot sweep heritage under the carpet and doing mural to hide whatever is not beautiful. Actually, heritage are actually beautiful in its own sense, and we need to highlight.
It's very damaging, actually. Yes, it's very damaging. If you were to do mural painting on the heritage buildings, you sort of like to steal the attraction from people appreciating the heritage or the architecture of the city to the paintings. And I think I think I've seen some of this in Malacca being is been done, which there's an orang hutan mural on the old shop houses, which I think it's not really appropriate. It's not the painting is beautiful, the mural is good, but it's not it's at the wrong place. I think just now I forgot to highlight, why arts is important from the environmental psychology perspective, is that arts is actually an object of stimulation. It is an object of stimulus that affects our perception. So when people are affected by perception, the perception of a place will affect the behavior, and also will actually result in people evaluating the place. So when the place is when arts is being used positively, it can influence people's evaluation of place. That means they will go to like the place, like what Yamus was saying, and from that it will affect their behavior. And this chain of reaction from the behavior of the people towards the place will change once their perception has changed. And this is in a way one way of us, reducing negative response to the environment, like vandalism, graffiti and so forth, is by making people, appreciating the place through the arts. And then in the end, there is a bonding. When there is a bonding, there is that sense of belonging that Yamus was saying about, and we can get a sustainable community in the long run. When people tend to get attached to places. So I think I really congratulate the two of our speakers, for their attempts in trying to do something to the city, to give more meanings. I think our city dwellers are really starving from visual delights, starving from having a place where they can experience the quality sense of life. And that's why we spend so much money going overseas, to visit other places, whereas we could have something like what we've seen other abroad be done here in our cities. If we just need the willpower, and because we've got lots of talents in the country.
Okay, so before I go to the public questionnaire, I would like to throw two two questions to the panelists. Okay, right now, we've been somehow rather locked down, but now we are, alhamdulillah, in certain cities, we are in phase 2. But just a question, how does art, if we cannot congregate art, but a picture on walls, or even an action to do on the floor, or to actually create some form of mural, how that can actually allude to better, healthier cities. I think I'll start with Fadzlan. How do you see that? If we can save say 1 minute or two, so that we can actually get some form of feedback, and later I'll ask Joe and I'll ask to Prof. Fadzlan.
I think the arts need to go. If you want to understand it, you can understand arts in terms of dia punya basics, color, form, hue. So sometimes it doesn't need a mural. It can just a block of colors. So people go underneath a bridge, normal bridge, dia mundane, tiba-tiba ada a splash of blue. So during the pandemic, people just cannot go out, just go by car, they go into this wander around places, then suddenly it turns into green or blue. So it go back to basics lah. So then it can evolve later on when the pandemic is over. Then the works can be detailed up. So I mean, arts is a create ambience lah, ambience of that places. Rather than the architect, arts, detailing art form. So it creates a very basic foundation of arts, like ambience, like hue. So that's I think sufficient to help people go through the pandemic. It's a cheering up kind of formula. Simple yet I think efficient, because it creates the ambience. It changed the mood of the place.
All right. Joe, how do you respond to that, Joe?
Yeah, panjang response, but I just quickly say that it's a failure of the architects to actually look at addressing facades, as Puan said, Professor Fadzlan too. He's become the Captain Marvel, that he's had to dress up. What were the failures of architects to look into the back of buildings, or the front, or the colors, that should have already been there. But art should not be just two-dimensional. It has many forms, like Prof. kata pun. It should be alive. So the two-dimensional becomes three-dimensional, like what Fadzlan mentioned. The interaction is just as important. But you don't want to have the failure of just painting on walls that people come and take. It's like Ernest's mural. 10 million people took pictures of it, then went back to China and then posted. That's it. They didn't interact with the local community, or they didn't feel. The whole idea, it is for people to beli buah or makan buah di tempat tu, or buat buah jus ke apa. So the whole idea is a spin-off effects of the mural, if you're talking about mural. But I like to propose that art should be multi-layered, berlayer-layer kan, as Fadzlan did. It shouldn't be just art on the wall that people take an Instagram and that's it, tak terasa apa. So he's done a good job by making it a story, a narrative. Makan, buah, beli. It's just not about taking pictures anymore, which is what's happening in the new world. They ambil gambar, they don't feel it. Okay, and then what last one? What Puan mentioned, right? If you look at people taking pictures, we take more pictures of Venice and Paris and old buildings, Ramblas and all that, than we do of new buildings. So have architects failed in making people attracted to these spaces? That I don't want to take my picture in front of a building, I still take picture in front of the old shop house in Penang, because that has more character.
Prof, how do you see this?
I mean, your question just now was related to how can make the city healthier. I will look into the aspect healthy from the mental health perspective. Because you see, like I said, the humans they respond to the environment, and there is this symbiotic relationship between the environment and how we behave through our perception and our cognition. And like what Joe been mentioning just now, I mean, when buildings have been designed just to fulfill the like utilitarian buildings, just to serve the purpose, it's really a building that people will just forget about it and just sleep their mind, and they just go there once they finish their business, and then they leave. But for people to become to promote mental health and to promote good spirits, because usually our mental health actually affects our physical health.
Sure.
If you're not happy, we in the end will be sick. There's this thing we call psychosomatic.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
show shows in your eyes.
you think you are sick, and then in the end, actually, you'll be physically sick. And I think our city is actually not really promoting good health, either physically because we cannot walk, and even psychologically, because we don't enjoy. There's no, like I said, the visual delight, the ability for people to go to the city for just to enjoy the city. We don't do that in our Malaysian cities. We just, when we go to cities, it's just for a certain purpose.
Yep.
But if you travel overseas, you can just go, to the cities for a walkabout, enjoy doing nothing. I mean, like you go to Paris, I don't buy anything when I go to work. I just walk, and because I enjoy the whole the experience. You enjoy the architecture. And I mean, like in Paris, you enjoy the markets. There's about 1,000 marketplaces dotted all over the cities. Because the marketplace is a form of arts. Is that the cultural aspect of the arts, the way they sell, the way they display the fruit stalls, the way they set up the stalls, that gives a sense of color. This kind of experience, it nourishes you. It enlightens your spirit. It makes you happy. Whenever I'm very stressful, last time before the pandemic, I will save my money every year just so that I can go overseas, just to enjoy the cities, enjoy the place. And when I come back, I get very depressed again, in the cities, and I have to wait the end of the year, where I can go out too.
Yeah,
But it's very costly to do that, isn't it? I mean, why can't we
Datang
have
Penang lah, datang Penang. Penang has got it.
Penang, because the traffic actually kills off the the whole thing. I think there's something we have to do about the traffic. I think it really kills our city. In the sense that, I wanted to. It's so difficult to really have a leisure stroll. I went to Penang for research, normally, because I did a study for Jabatan Warisan Negara, about the World Heritage Site. I was really frustrated because I cannot walk. I wanted to walk, but it's so unsafe to walk. And therefore you cannot really have the experience, enjoying the beauty of the old shop houses. So I think that is the kind of nuisance. I think the traffic is a nuisance to me. It's a necessary evil, as far as city building is. You need the traffic, you need the movement, but it's an evil in the sense that, it kills off our experience. It makes us feel so frustrated. It's very stressful because you really cannot walk safely in the cities and so forth. So I think
Yeah, you increase the healthiness lah.
anxiety, it creates. That's why I said our city increase the anxiety of people. That's why you don't go to the city if you want to feel relaxed and so forth.
All right.
So,
Walkability.
yeah.
I got a few questions here from the public. Yeah, so I'll start with Fadzlan. Fadzlan, I'm thrilled to hear how public art evolved through empathy, by understanding the community it is located. This is markedly different from transplanting any object or pictures onto a public space. Okay, question is, what would be your dream project in Malaysia or the region in enhancing a sense of place? Thus, sense of belonging of a specific community or location. Fadzlan.
For me, I take every job as a new adventure, to know places, to know people, to know the surrounding. So I mean, the dream work should be have to give time, have to give love. The thing that I think give. Sometimes the client doesn't want to give time; they want to rush. So this is kill the process. Sometimes people doesn't want to give love; they just want to be perfection. So they doesn't see things. Sometimes it need to be improvised along the way. Sometimes the mistakes, or sometimes need to change along the process. So they too strict, macam ayah ajar anak nak strict, so doesn't give love. If you give love, it grow by itself. So the the creating process too is the most wonderful moment. That's why the stages to creating conversations. So I mean, any projects I think is it will be interesting if you have this kind of process, kind of these stages.
So basically we need time and we need some form of focus lah, and we need to actually enjoy the time and also have value.
Yeah,
value is in
because
time and also effort.
Because people say cost multiple by time kan. So the more time you take, the more cost it will take. So that's the difficulty of it. Because sometimes that's why some of the work I cannot engage, I cannot collaborate with other artists because the budget I use up I buy for time.
I think it's not just time lah. It's what you are trying to create. There is a moment, and a moment in society, a moment in the space, and also a moment of the event. So I think that no, thank you. So next, I think we have a question for Joe. Joe, this you got I think quite a few, and but I give you one first. Thank you for interesting sharing session. This from ID Future Ahmad. Joe Sidek, in your experience of handling Georgetown Festival, has there been a situation where street setting shapes or influences the performance being staged there? And how do you answer that? You know, the street form.
Okay, like I mentioned, we in Penang we don't have the performing halls of Istana Budaya or big halls all over the world. We have a civic hall that doubles up as wedding and all that. So we had to make do. But I really like to tell, I saw another question, I just shared this with you all. It's like what Fadzlan said. It's not about me or you, but the power of we to change. The success of Georgetown Festival is not me. It's the chief minister, it's the rubbish collector from Majlis Perbandaran, it's the local coffee shop owner, it's everybody wanting the niat and the will to take ownership of place. Right? So you need to adjust your city's narrative to what you want. And basically, you have to have a plan. Why are you doing this festival? Or why are you doing this art object? For whom is this for? Is it just to beautify? And who should it benefit?
So, Fadzlan pula, which of your work do you think has the most impact in transforming the character of this place? And why do you think so?
The work is progression. But the latest one is the Pekan Buah. I mean, that's the most eye-opening. That for me been very touched lah, because those macam it fall into places. All the theories, all the expectation is beyond books. Somehow it gives you a sense of, at the end of the day, bila I balik Shah Alam, I feel sebab I cried in the car. I cried. I left Alustar. And people there, before I go, they said, "Dah nak balik." People cry when I leave. People start to come and gather around. So I mean, it's totally not about artwork. It is the artwork gather people that somehow summarize the process. I think that's the most. I mean, the most priceless moment, priceless things to have. The client doesn't pay that. The client doesn't ask you to do that. Those are not in the client brief for you to take document to engage people. Those are not. I do it because purely I feel like I want to know people. I take these chances as to know people, to know places. The art is just your skills. So for me, I go there just to get to know people.
Creating the connections, connection, and the connection is people.
Yeah, connection.
And how the people of this place and how the people of the nation, how the people of the community is actually playing the role.
Ada one incident. Bila I write the date of the building, 1956 something, and then one of the pekerja tu kata, oi, aku lahir time tu lah. Lepas tu kawan tu, hang lahir time tu ke? Dia pun baru tahu kawan tu lahir, umur dia sama dengan building tu, the same age as that building. So that's artwork to connect the dot, create community, people surround that, communicate each other. That's the most, I think, fulfilling lah.
Okay, Joe, this one here. How would you extend the success of Penang events not to another big city but to a rural location, perhaps those with historic or heritage significance? And secondly, would high art or fine art be better appreciated and gain better market awareness in the context of enhancing appreciation of public art? So one.
Terima kasih. Okay, I got the question.
You got there are two spectrum too. Very careful too. Ada dua spectrum.
Yeah.
One.
I understand. Just want to touch base on what Fadzlan said and Professor Sakata is the spirit of place, a sense of belonging that this place has your story. So the first one is about bringing the success. The success of Georgetown Festival is everyone, right? So if you want to take that the example to anywhere around the world, you boleh. But the thing is, it's about your story. It's what is important is you're telling your story, whether you're making a film or doing a festival. It's about who you are, how unique you are, because you cannot take 10 of the world's best acts and put in a building, and it can be anywhere the same. Macam Singapore International, or you bubuh 10 international acts, you walk in Singapore, it's just shows in a building. But you must have the layering, macam kuih lapis kan, to know that this belongs to Penang or this belongs to KL. So it's important to curate whatever pekan kecil ke, bandar besar ke, to curate whatever that tells your unique story that is different. You don't want to take the principles of a big festival and kata, I want to do the same. It's not. Nothing should be the same. Yeah. So the second,
Basically, unique is in the space and moments.
Placemaking and storytelling is linked. You have to tell your story. You don't want to tell Paris story. You don't want to tell Singapore story. You want to tell Pekan Besar story or Pematang Pauh story. It is your story. You own it. You all cannot build it. Yeah, you can build a Legoland. You can build all this fantasy Disney, but you cannot build a Pematang Pauh story. It belongs to Pematang Pauh.
The second part tu, anak dengar the second part tu.
The second part. What was the question again? Sorry, just quickly.
Okay, the second part tu is asking this one. Would high art or fine art be better appreciated and gain better market awareness in the context of enhancing appreciation of public art?
It shouldn't be high art or low art, because I feel as if a lot of people put emphasis on elitist high art. Art is for everyone. Like we have traditional shows, traditional practices that is really high art form, and yet we as Malaysians don't appreciate it. I throw back the question to everyone out there. Why do we put a Western art form above ours when our cultures are thousands of years old? And yet we put Western psyche of what is art to say, oh, itulah kita patut tujukan. No, we have our own. We have our own historical things. The Chinese, the Indians, the Malays have thousands of years of culture. Why do we put art form that high art? Who is high art? Macam kita dah lupa macam mana when I was a kid, kita ada angklung, ada bangsawan and all that. Now, we've lost all that. We do not place importance to our own art form. I don't want to talk about high art or low art. I think art is for everyone, and you should understand that there's a layering for everything. So saya tak nak nanti orang ingat, oh, this is art. Takut nak masuk National Gallery, takut nak masuk Istana Budaya.
So, the accessibility of art is very crucial in any city.
Accessibility and who it belongs to. It belongs to all of us.
Maknanya, it's not saying that art is free, but the accessibility of art for the public is very, very crucial in order for the city to be owned by the public. And I think this is where you, when you did your Penang Festival and what you're going to do in KL, it really resonates well, because for so long we have actually lost, and what you said is correctly. Now we got to regain back that, how should I say, ownership, and we need to reinstate back the importance of our art and culture the way that we were taught by our forefathers, and I think that's very, very nice.
No, but I just need to add that actually it's not all bad, it's not all negative. There are people in KL, whether it's Central Market, Go Down, Rex, a lot of local, even Petaling Street community, semua nakkan benda ni. So I think it's just about us working together to create the story. Even the BKL has been doing a good job. You all, everybody knows that we have it. Now we just have to bake the cake and to show the world our cake.
So, Prof, ni one question for you. Since you just came back from Kuantan, this one here, can you give other examples of significance sculpture works that create a defined, significant, and successful public spaces beside the Kuantan example? So, is there any?
In Malaysia, I don't think so. Oh, that one thing I'm quite surprised. Why in Malaysian cities? Why aren't sculptures being utilized? You know, to actually in part of placemaking as or to create the giving character to places and also to liven up public spaces. We don't really utilize sculpture as much as other cities abroad. Although I suddenly realized that probably in Islam, you know, we cannot engage in sculpture that is imitating an object that has life, you know, like a person and so forth. But we can always go for abstract arts, you know, or modern arts, but in a sculpture form. Because, like I said, you know, arts it's not just two dimensional like mural painting and so forth. You know, there is this three-dimensional arts that we don't really utilize much in the way we design our urban spaces. Like I mentioned, that's why I keep on mentioning the examples overseas but abroad, because over there they use lots of sculptures, but even though they use sculptures of people and so forth, but we can actually do an abstract version so that it doesn't really imitate the actual life, because it's not actually allowed in Islam. But sculptures is actually a three-dimensional form of arts that not can just also be very practical. I mean,
I think sculptures is allowed only that as long as we don't how should I say use it as a form to
it's allowed, but it's not being used. You realize, no? In our cities, we lack of sculptures.
Can I respond to that? Can I respond to that?
Bahasa Melayunya jangan they call it mempersembahkan benda itu. But what I have to say is, if you relate, in Islamabad, the city that was designed by Doxadis, a Greek architect, right? They use lots of this art and culture. You know, Doxadis, it promotes this gridded, you know, just like Barcelona. So up on the high hill, you can see the overall Islamabad and the sculpture done by the local sculpturists. So these are the things that we need to actually instill.
It's lacking here in our cities. Okay, Mr.
I need to respond to that, because I can tell you why the Western psyche is geared to that, because they had sculptures by Rodin and all that from hundreds of years for them to appreciate. We have lost out our appreciation, not just for installation, for everything. The last 30 years, no, the young kids don't know how to appreciate it. So when you put it there, they tengok ambil gambar, or they can Instagram boleh. But you see in the Western world, the beauty of the sculptures, waterfall, fountains, hundreds of years. Yeah. So we never had that. So for us to mendidikkan budak-budak sekarang to appreciate arts of all forms. Installation is only one form. There's also performance. They also don't know how to appreciate shows. They also don't know how to. They only appreciate art when they can Instagram it. So we really need to have a deeper appreciation of all forms of the arts. Macam Istana Budaya, you have performances that it is not reaching out to the public.
Yeah, very indoor. I mean,
merakyatkan the arts is very important. It has to be merakyatkan.
Okay, going back to that sculpture, because I know Mr. Rahmat was asking that question. I cannot give a good example but I can give the bad examples. I mean, our problem is not we don't. There's very few examples of sculptures, you know, playing an important role in giving identity or sense space. But there is also this problem of making gimmicks through sculptures. Good example last night in Malacca. I don't know whether it's still there. You know that gimmick windmill near the Red Square. I mean, you don't have to do a miniature windmill to show, to tell people that this is used to be a Dutch square. You can always have other form of if you want to do a sculpture, you have to do a proper sculpture with a fine taste of the arts, as well as sculptures that actually can be used as an interpretative element to tell the history of the place. But you have to do it with good design sense, good taste.
Actually, we have got few. If you look properly, right, in 1961, the first mural that we ever got in Malaysia, or that matter Malaya after independence, was the one did by Isman Mustam for the Dewan Bahasa Pustaka mural.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
That is actually placed in a very, how shall I say, important roundabout. They call it Edinburgh roundabout, one of the biggest roundabout in KL. And it's actually where, you can see our National Linguistic Center there. And then it actually, every in the morning before I go to school, that one is always there. And another one, we had once, Syed Ahmad Jamal's one just behind UMBC.
It was demolished, isn't it?
Yeah, that one, if we were to actually, if they can actually shift trees, they could have shifted that obelisk to and put in a more prominent position, maybe in the Dataran Merdeka or even in the upper public square. So I think there are, but I think we need to now look it into an element where students in urban design, architecture, or even arts, fine arts, they have been taken into this realm that art in architecture, or art in town planning, or art in even urban design is actually a pleasure of science or obelisk to inform of the culture or the journey of the person or people or community in the whole city or a nation or even a state. I think it's very, very crucial, because without that, I think we lost our culture, we lost the time.
Almost talking about that, Syed Ahmad Jamal sculpture, when we did the KL Heritage Trail Master Plan, it was identified as one of the place markers that we felt is so important to retain, to tell the story of our arts, our history of arts, because it's being made by one of our well-renowned artists. But it was demolished for the simple reason. I think it's just a bureaucracy problem. It's about maintenance, and it's about it's being on a piece of land that it doesn't belong to the local authority or something. I don't remember the story, but it was really, really, really a sad thing to happen. You cannot recreate anymore that piece of artwork, because the art is no longer around. So this is our problem. We are so easy to erase our history, so easy to erase our cultural traditions, and then try to create new ones, which doesn't really tell who we are. So I think this value system, there's something wrong with our value system in the appreciation of the arts. And I think our education system must respond to this. I remember my children grew up in they went to school, they started schooling in UK. They were introduced to the arts, at a very early age, appreciation of the arts, appreciation of the nature, planting trees with the mayor of the city and so forth. It's been embedded at an early age, so that when they grow up, they tend to appreciate heritage, buildings, and arts and so forth.
So to me, I got one last question to Fadzlan and also Joe, but I keep it first because I like the discussion to get on, because I wouldn't want to end with a question that is actually very administrative. So to me, if we don't start early and we don't start now, I think we lose that whole generation, and I think we're almost going to lose that generation. And appreciation of art doesn't mean that you have to do art, because in each of us, art is some form of serenity, that you have time. Just like what Fadzlan saying, you need to have time, and that time is where we heal ourselves. And people always say that time heal by itself, right? So we need the time. I just wondered, like for instance, we got a lot of these Muslim scholars like Rumi, we got Munshi Abdullah, we have how shall I say, our more writers. And if we cannot go even for sculpturing, we can go for excerpts, and excerpts can be along the city streets, can be along in some buildings, and also in the forecourts. And I think these are the things that we need to actually embellish and also enhance. Don't you think so, Joe? Like what you're trying to do, the word sini, sinu, sana, all those sort of things,
Dekat
Uh,
sini, kat situ.
No, I just want to just touch base again what Fadzlan said and all that. It's not, and Puan pun cakap, Prof, it's not about gimmicks, it has to be the essence of why are you doing this. It's not just to attract numbers or be popular. You really have, and someone asked about high art. It's very important to be able allow people to learn and access. Like I'm hoping to bring 20 of batik paintings by the masters into the city so that young people have an access to, wow, batik, our batik, this is a painting, this is globally accepted, because they don't know, they tak pernah tengok. So our duty, all of us, is to share knowledge or share whatever I know, like what Encik Fadzlan did. He does a thinking process of why this painting is there, not because of the gimmick. The gimmick maybe is one element, but 90 other elements are important, like history, people, who does it belong to, where do you take this, and also another subject is the maintenance. The Malaysian culture is, that's why the thing got pulled down. They tak peduli. They just paint, and then 5 years from now, the mural is dah tak cantik, orang dah tak peduli. We had a problem with Ernest's mural. 3 kali the state asked for it to be retouched. And I told Ernest, and I decided that we don't want to do retouching again and again and again. The first twice we did it because it's part of helping Penang State. Lepas tu tak nak buat dah, because it's a social commentary of time, and that's why like graffiti artists done in brownfields and all that is fine, but not in traditional old buildings. It is young artists wanting to say something, so they have space. That's a good thing. The bad thing is when they destroy space that is very sensitive and fragile. And so that, I mean, this is a long topic. I love to have another discussion on this, just on this topic.
Okay, Joe, I would like to ask this this one question for myself from my angle, because we've been discussing this in World Urban Forum, Malaysian Urban Forum. Okay, you once informed me that in order for you to do a festival in a city, there has to be a history, there has to be a story of a city in order for it to start a better storyline for the festival that you want to do. Okay, Kuala Lumpur, Penang, yes, they got history from Sultan Puasa all the way until now. What about, I call it like, for instance, cities like Putrajaya in Kuching, Putrajaya in Selangor, or even Iskandar in Johor Bahru. I don't know whether Iskandar is part of Johor Bahru, but it's, somebody said Iskandar, but Iskandar Putri for that matter. How then you can use, because this question about high art still come up on my chat to ask to you, because you are the probably person yang memang have got this mingling of arts and also culture. How can you use high art in these cities? Because I think for the older city, it's easy to actually have anything that can go. But for these new cities, they call it, I wouldn't want to say instant city, they are planned cities. So how would you use that high art to actually exemplify this sort of thing?
I'll give you an example of Johor, right? I was asked to look at Johor and think about Johor. Why hasn't there been a narrative about the history of Johor, right? It being the center of the Riau Malay archipelago, and now Rompin, the Anglo history of Johor. Johor, Cartier-Bresson took pictures of the first UMNO meeting in Johor. There's so many elements of Johor that could be built on, that Johor could take ownership. And then we think the business side, it is next door to Singapore. So wherever it is, whichever city, even Kuching, you see, if you look at Borneo, right? Kalimantan will be the capital of Indonesia. The potential of Sabah or Sarawak grabbing to be the international indigenous capital of the world is hugely potential, because when we talk about indigenous people around the world is marginalized, not in Sabah, not in Sarawak. They have very strong, they have rocket scientists, beauty queens and all that. So that's their story. And the language and the fruit is already ripe. They have music, they have oral history, they have crafts, they ada macam-macam tau. So every state, even Kedah has an amazing potential. I'm about to attempt a Malay festival in Penang, pulling in Kedah, Perlis and Perak's narrative. Because you just need to do homework wherever you go. Macam tadi Cik Fadzlan kan, you do homework. Apa kan keistimewaan, what is the specialty of that story? Because that You cannot do a Kedah festival in Johor in Singapore. You cannot do a Johor festival in Penang. You cannot do a Penang festival in KL. KL needs its own festival. Putrajaya needs its own narrative. Then you take full ownership. No one can copy you. They cannot build the Sultan Ismail punya building ke. They cannot build a central market in Singapore. You need that sort of stories that's uniquely yours. It's like filmmaking lah. You tak nak copy Korea, tak nak copy Italy, tak nak copy Iran. You have to have your own unique selling proposition. This is yours. So I think it's very important for the high art, because when I brought high art, I brought some of the world's biggest names to Penang, right? And they will come back. When I said, well, I'm working on an idea of a festival of Asia in Kuala Lumpur, that I want to bring all of Asia, that Kuala Lumpur historically was the center of the universe. Everybody came through Straits of Malacca, China, India, the Europe. That's ours. We own that. Singapore cannot have that. Singapore boleh lah, tapi kita lagi kuat because we have Bujang Valley, Penang, and Malacca, right? So we own it more than Singapore. We were selling elephants to India. How strong is that narrative? You know, and then think of Central Asia and West Asia. We are an Islamic country. They need a platform. So the strength of Kuala Lumpur is amazing. The potential of Kuala Lumpur to be the center of Asia. So to me, it is high art. You need global attention, because if you buat Citra Warna, buka kedai, tutup kedai, does anybody remember Citra Warna? Does it has an economic benefits to the country? And you spend 15 million, right? So next year you spend another 15 million. What is the benefit of the economic spin-offs? It is buka tutup. There's no continuity. So you need to think about, like what I did with Georgetown Festival, you need to think about continuing journey. How do you place make to make the place a very special place, right?
Okay, I nak calm down sikit, calm down. I pergi ke Fadzlan sekejap. Nanti kejap lagi I pergi balik ke this apa they call it temperature rising punya questions. Okay, Fadzlan, one question. You know, when you do this painting, right, it's also occurred to me also, but this question very good question, especially to local authorities lah. Okay, you do this mural, wonderful mural, color or something, good paints. You're not using the worst of paint. You're using good paints. Nippon lah, Jotun, they give you all the good paint. How do you handle maintenance? This is the question for us. Oh, do mural cantik. Macam mana lepas 5 tahun ni? Maintenance.
Despite using good paint, the surface also need to be treated properly. People, most artists, they forget that the wall need to be treated first before you apply the right paint. So those two undercoats and the main coat will expand the life of the painting of the artwork, and then also basically depend on both. There's lebih pada technicality lah.
Boleh ke kita tahu lacquer, so they just wash pakai air? Is that work or actually spoil the whole mural?
Boleh. You can use that, but then it will last like 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years. But then it will fade gradually. It will fade. It doesn't. If you use the right material, the right method, then it will fade gradually. Dia tak jadi patches. Okay. It's okay.
Boleh saya sambut sekejap? Boleh. I discuss this subject.
Memang santai je ni pun.
The mural is not supposed to last forever. Because it's not built to last forever because of paint and quality. So idea of using walls as canvas should be like what you painted this, somebody added on top, right? And then maybe repainting and giving it to a fresh canvas to a new artist. So murals are not supposed to last. If you look even at Banksy and all the other people, they just paint. Gorilla, they masuk, they paint, and somebody comes back and there's no control. So it's not like as if it's a permanent fixture, and it shouldn't be.
I think there is a misconception between mural, street art, and graffiti. So I think we need to understand these phases of different type of actually not just style. Style is already cross border. It's actually the movement of graffiti, street art, and mural. So mural you can, to the certain extent, can be last forever, as if like the mural inside a church, mural, so it become part of heritage. The mural, there's certain mural can be last forever, hundreds and years, that you can preserve. There are also street art that can be changed over time by the artist itself. There are also graffiti that being expressed without any boundaries and any rules. So the problem sometimes, the artist itself confused between graffiti, street art, and mural. Now they thought they can overlap on mural, the thing that being actually gazetted as a part of identity, or they can sometimes use as a graffiti to express something that is not at the same at the right place. So the confusion of this type of evolution of it, that sometimes I feel disturbed lah a bit once they doesn't appreciate some mural, some graffiti can be overlaid, some street art can be showcased, some mural should be preserved, should be catalogued as part of fine art.
Okay, that's a good observation. Okay, I want to ask this. I think this question maybe I think goes to Joe. Okay, I giving the setting. Setting. Okay, Prof just now said about Ramblas. Okay, Ramblas is a very important street in Barcelona that talks about where people meet art, where people meet food, people meet landscape, and people meet urban design. So, in this pandemic, it has been shown that we need to be more of the outdoor. We have to be in the sun. We have got to be in the fresh air. So I will not want to name an example, but later I will name the example. But this question is, how do we control the commercial development centers like shopping malls, and how to revive street life? The question why I ask this, TRX, right? The new financial center of KL, right? Where the towers are over there. And we have got an old setting, which is in Bukit Bintang. And we got this new financial district, which is in TRX, Tun Razak Exchange. And there is this small street that connects between Bukit Bintang and also TRX. Could that be that the moment that we have been waiting for, that we can create that Ramblas feeling where this sort of art culture, Fadzlan's thing, and then your also street art and also street culture can be made that available to the people to actually see that transition between the old Bukit Bintang and to the new TRX.
Ken, I mean, I think Puan mentioned it, right? It's about walkability. If you look at major cities in the world, where even Paris is talking about Champs-Élysées being pedestrianized, New York and its high lines, every major city in the world is looking at walkability. Kuala Lumpur is not yet. Penang has one. We have that sidewalks that the state is desperately trying to make it pedestrian so that people can walk. So walkability and connectivity is very important so that people can feel the place. Like I'm walking to sini, di sana, di sinon. This is why I wanted to use those words. And we're going to turn the inner Kuala Lumpur into a walking space. Park and walk, cycle and walk. Because I want you to feel the building. I want to feel every space has got its own story. So it's important to be able to touch and feel, not to drive a car, park, masuk aircon, keluar aircon, see the exhibition, go home. It is about the fabric of the city. And I think it's important. Puan mentioned it, I think Fadzlan mentioned it. It is the tangible part of feeling a city, that you smell the place. You smell and you hear and you dengar. And it is about walkability. And I love the idea that New York has got its highlights. And then Paris is talking about turning Champs-Élysées into a walk thing. And KL, I feel Bandaraya is trying, Think City, Bandaraya, all of us are talking about it. It's time that we all put our thoughts on the table and start with an example, and then biar nampakkan, biar merakyatkan tempat-tempat ini. I think Kuala Lumpur has a lot of potential and it is happening.
Yeah. So So that's
On the
why.
last note, Mr. Jo, I think the heritage trail master plan was trying to do that actually. You increasing the walkability and connecting to historical places as part of storytelling of the place. But I think they need DBKL probably need to
Okay.
But
I need to jump here because I said, okay, I'm a Muslim, but I will just say, forgive them, Lord, for they did not know. At the moment, they don't see it. But what happened to Penang is the festival became on the street. So people walked everywhere from gallery to gallery, and then up came the shops and the souvenir shops and the artisan shops and all that. So once you make people walk, then it opens up new spaces for people.
Yeah.
So the idea is to create, tunjukkan dulu. So insyaAllah, November, end of November, working with everyone, we'll be able to show that Kuala Lumpur is a walkable city if you choose to walk.
Agreed. Tetapi I agree, Prof. Shuhana, about this. Your heritage trail, but quite unlike other cities, right? Walk is actually second nature. So, like your heritage trail, I agree. I think you have now up to 7 so far. Those are actually, I call it explicit walk. Explicit means you have to actually arrange your time, you got to go there, and there is actually people telling the story along when you go to those walk. What I'm actually promoting is that walking is now second nature. Why I say that is this. If the area or angle that I'm looking at is this. We are spending billions to actually do this TRX tourism package. We are doing Bukit Bintang. Bukit Bintang is already there where people go shopping. So I think the nature of walking from Bukit Bintang, which is through the Star Hill, walking down towards Jalan Imbi, and you go into the old park where there used to be the Jalan Imbi, and you go in through 3RX to that area. That is the part that they call it the dangling, where the apples, tangkai apple tu boleh hubungkan Bukit Bintang with TRX. That will create a second nature that people don't need to drive to TRX. They just walk from Bukit Bintang, second nature, pergi TRX. And I think people will enjoy that walking much more, and maybe Fadzlan's mural, Prof. Shuhana's urban design of how Ramblas can replicate in a tropical sense, Joe Sidek's high art and also the cultural there. No, it is a 365 item. It's a 24/7 item. It is not just macam Joe say, Citra Warna for 15 minutes or 50 minutes for that matter. This is not. This is actually way of life kita. This is how you can actually extend from an existing to a new. So dia jadi macam the walkable tu second nature.
Boleh saya sambut sini. Because the danger is when you do a spider web like downtown KL kan, to connect the buildings, they have this flyover crossing everywhere. You don't experience the street. The joy. It has to be. It has to be street level. It has to be street level. It has to be points of stop. So kita live in a tropic. And hujan pula kan kadang-kadang. So susah untuk orang berjalan from A to B because hujan, panas and all that. So we need to put pit stops. So along the way as cafes or shops that they can be interested in. So the walking thing has to have points macam pit stop yang people can teduh, can makan, can minum. So that would make the journey more interesting rather than hujan I tak boleh pergi mana, I rather drive lah, boleh park.
Okay, I think kita dah syok ni. Orang kata kalau kita sedap makan kita berhenti, kalau kita lapar
berhenti sebelum kenyang.
Okay, so berhenti sebelum kenyang. So kita teruskan sedap ni. So this is I call it the apex of the talk. Don't worry, we have other talks in Mereka Bandar. But before I stop this, I would like to remind again to listeners and also participants in this webinar that as earlier on Dr. Masita was trying to inform us is Mereka Bandar is conducting this NUDA, which is the National Urban Designers Award 2021, and the closing date of the submission and nomination is in December. So for further details, just go to Mereka Bandar Facebook and also website, so you can get all the details. There are many stages. You can even send in not just your design, you can also send in your articles, your research, your paperwork that you actually involved in urban design to enlighten, because what we need is we need to build up this narrative about urban design in Malaysia and urban design in also historical areas. So this is what we need to do. So with that, I think I would like to express my greatest thanks and also gratitude to Prof. Shuhana for enlightening us in this session, as well as to Joe to have spoken to us on the role and the importance of art and also street art, and also to Fadzlan, who has done remarkable mural painting, not just in KL, but in other parts and other cities as well. So I think we have reached to the top of the hour, noon now, and I think before we end, I would like to pass this back to Dr. Mashita for the closing remarks. Dr. Mashita, I pass it back to you.
All right. With that final notes from the moderator, we will conclude today's webinar. Once again, we are at Pereka Bandar would like to express our sincere gratitude to all the guest panelists and also to all of you who joined us today. A recording session of this webinar will be available at Pereka Bandar Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Thank you. Hope to see you soon and enjoy the rest of the weekend.